Hello, hello. I'm gonna have to test myself because today is only the second time I've streamed, and the um, the camera I was using was it died. The camera I was using died, so I had to switch the camera to my phone, and I can't remember how to get to my own video. Here we go. I had to switch to my phone. Oh, good. Okay. I had to open my own channel to make sure that that you guys could hear me. So we can. Everyone can hear. All right. So I had to switch to my phone. That was a whole mess. Then I realized I don't know how to hook up the fancy schmancy microphone that my husband set up for me last time. So, yeah, we're just going to use the laptop mic right now, and it's going to be fine. I messed around with my cameras and with my camera placement and my lighting placement. I'm still not exactly 100% with how they are. There's a cord in my face I just found, so remove that. Hey, look, I've got a template. I actually have like my page name and things, so we're moving on up. We are getting better at this. We're still not great. By the way, hi, I'm Kristen, Fire Tower Knits. Glad to be here. This morning I woke up to a message on Instagram. I forget what the girl's name was that wrote me, and I can't check it because my phone is here recording this loveliness, so I would pull it up, but I can't. Anyway, I woke up to a message. She'd sent me a message at like 4 o'clock in the morning asking about creating iCords with my Tulip iCord maker. And could I suggest what yarn she should use? So I wrote her back and suggested some yarn, and then I told her, by the way, I'm on Twitch now, so I'll do a little video for you later. So here is the video that I said I was going to do. I had to wait for my baby girl to go down for a nap. So she's napping now, thankfully, and my husband's keeping an eye on her, hopefully. Hopefully she'll have a good nap and not one of those terrible, like 15-minute naps when you spend all of this effort and energy getting the baby down, and then 15 minutes later they're awake, and you're like, that was just a total waste of time and effort and energy on everyone's part. So, into my Mary Poppins box there. So first let me describe what an iCord is. An iCord is essentially a tiny tube of yarn. You'll see them used for like drawstrings if you're making, like a pair of pants that need a drawstring, or a pouch, like a drawstring pouch. You'd make an iCord. And also sometimes you'll use them for like an edging for a hat or a baby bonnet or something. You do an iCord edge. And usually you would hand knit an iCord. And I'll show you how you can do that in a minute. But if you have this fancy schmancy Tulip iCord maker, it's pretty awesome. I just got it last year. This will help you make iCords super quickly. See, I'm still not used to where my camera is. I'll have to figure it out more, but it's better than it was last time. So this is an iCord maker, and I'm going to show you how to use this. And I have made a ton of iCords with this super quickly. So just very long tubes of yarn. I had a whole bunch of scraps from leftover projects of all different kinds of yarn, and I wanted to store them a little better, and also I didn't have plans for them. A lot of them were vintage yarn. I didn't even know, if they were wool or acrylic or what their fabric was, and I didn't have enough to use to make anything, and they were all sorts of different weights, so I couldn't really combine them. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to make a bunch of iCords. And the nice thing about an iCord, just like any knit thing, is if I felt like I wanted to use the yarn again, you can just unravel it. Just like any knitting or crochet, you can just pull it apart. So if I felt like knitting with this, I could. So yeah, tons and tons of iCords. And for me, let me put these back up. I like to make little necklace cowls with them. I gave some away for Christmas. Let me show you. So these are the necklace cowls, and what I do is I'll just combine a few different iCords together. Sometimes I keep them monochromatic, and you don't even have to tie them together. You can just kind of like hold them together and then wrap a corresponding yarn around all your little iCords, and then you just wear it like a little necklace. And it's a super cute, like, fabric jewelry. This, I mean, I'm not a huge jewelry person, but this I would wear around. It's soft, it's colorful, it's cute. I like them. Oh, I'm gonna lose my hat. So that's what I do with them. I make little necklaces, or baby headbands, or I mean, yes, anyone headbands. They don't have to be baby headbands. They're great for headbands. Just a cute little pop of color as a headband. So yeah, that's what I do with them. There's so many things. You can do them for bracelets. I've seen people make iCords and glue them down or attach them to something they've knit and make like little scenes out of them. So lots of things you can do with an iCord. All right, let's pull out some yarn and I'll show you how to use this, because it's pretty simple once you get the hang of it, but there is a trick to starting it. I can't even tell. Okay, so Twitch question. Clearly, knitting is my expertise. Twitch is not. I don't know how to see if there's anyone viewing me. I'm using OBS and I'm on a Mac. So unless I actually go into my Twitch channel, like while I'm streaming, which I know I could do this on my phone, but again, my phone is up here because the other phone died. So I don't know if I can use, oh goodness. I'm hearing myself. I don't need to hear myself. I don't know if there's like a plugin that I can download to OBS to see if people are viewing, who's viewing. I think I successfully put a chat window in here. I've now viewed, but there's no one actually in here right now. So I'm kind of talking to myself at the moment, which is fine. But for future, if anyone comes in here and watches this later, I put a chat plugin, but there's no one to chat, so I can't check. I guess I can type in my own window. I'll try that. Okay, I've sent myself a message, and then we'll see if it pops up. Oh, it popped up. Okay, that's cool, but I can't actually read it in the OBS window because this is super tiny. I wonder if there's a way to resize this. Okay, I will mess with that some other time. If you have any suggestions, or if you know how to resize the OBS window. Also, apparently, since I'm on a Mac, OBS allows you to change out these, what do they call these? These docked windows, or whatever they're called. And there was a way to add like a browser window where you could put your chat feed in, but apparently that doesn't work for Mac OBS, of course. So if anyone's found a workaround for that, please send me a message, because, yeah, I don't know. Clearly. I mean, we're figuring it out. I actually have an overlay. I made it myself. This is like the 6th version of this overlay I made. I went through a whole design journey, because I wasn't sure where to start. So I started with something terrible, but you know, a start is a start, even if it's terrible. All right, let's get into this. So this is called the Tulip iCord Maker. I got mine from Joann Fabrics, and I had a 40% off coupon, which was awesome. Mine is currently filled with lint. I wonder why. Good. All right. So, it comes with the tiny crochet hook. I don't use the tiny crochet hook. If you wanted to, you could put thread your yarn through an embroidery needle or something. See this little side thing? It's kind of like the eye of a needle. You just want to thread your yarn up through that to begin with. Oh, what kind of yarn to use? I've used everything from soft yarn, fingering size yarn, all the way up to heavy worsted. I wouldn't go any thicker than heavy worsted or Aran because it'll be too thick. These are pretty tiny little hooks in there. I don't know if you can see them. Oh my God, I don't know where my camera is. There we go. They're pretty small. So heavy worsted is about as thick as I would go. So now, and I will show you how to use an embroidery needle with this because it kind of helps having extra weight. Let's see. So I'm just put an embroidery needle on this specifically just to have some weight. So you drop it down in the center, it pops out the bottom. Your embroidery needle fell off. We don't need that anymore. And now it comes with this handy dandy weight. In the instructions, it tells you to tie a knot in your yarn. I mean, if your yarn is not super slippy, then I wouldn't worry about that. See, it has this button where it clamps on. So, I mean, you can tie a knot. We'll do it just for grins. All right, we've tied a knot. So you push on the little clampy button. You feed your yarn through. Sometimes it helps if you have the embroidery needle on there, if you need some weight. And you kind of pull it taut. And this is just to give some tension to the yarn as the iCord maker, if I could speak, is making the iCord. You don't want to pull this taut. Whenever you get to the point where you're actually making the iCord, you want to leave this nice and loose. Another important thing about the yarn to use is make sure it's smooth and even. Nothing textured, nothing bulky or chunky like homespun, Lion Brand homespun, or is it Lion Brand? Regardless, homespun would not work in this. Also, if your yarn is super splitty, it's not going to come out very well. So a smooth, non-splitty yarn from fingering weight all the way up to Aran or heavy worsted will work just fine. Now, I'm going to bring this up close, if I can figure out where the heck my camera is. There we go. And you can see there's little hooks inside. So as they come up to catch the yarn, you want to make sure, I'll show you what it looks like when it's closed. Okay, see how that's closed? You want to make sure they're open. And this is what the crochet hook is for. They send you a little tiny crochet hook so you can stick it down there. I don't need that. I just use my fingers. You could use an embroidery needle. So here is the trick. This is the number one trick of using your iCord maker. When you're first getting your yarn in here, you want to hook it on the first hook, skip the second, hook it on the third, skip the fourth, and then you can start letting it go. That is the trick to it. If you don't do that, it's not going to make an iCord. It's going to make this weird, loose, slippy mess that, believe me, I spent a day and a half trying to get the hang of this, and I was like, what the heck am I doing wrong? And all of my iCords were terrible. They were slippy and awful and awful. So that is the trick. So you want to make sure you're not catching that little thing, and you just rotate, and then we're going to skip the second one. And we're going to catch the third, and we're going to skip the fourth, and then, now the magic is done. Now, you can go ahead and let the weight do its thing. You're going to pick it up off the table and let the weight do its thing, and then you're just going to rotate around, and the iCord maker is going to do its thing. Now, we've already... I feel like we've slipped a stitch. Of course this isn't going to work right the first time because I'm trying to show you how to do it, so it's not going to work. I mean, isn't that life? Hey, I'm going to demonstrate how I do this and how perfect it works. And then the thing's just not going to work. So, that's fine. So this is how you undo your yarn from the iCord maker when it inevitably doesn't work. Because, I mean, in all fairness, at some point the thing's not going to work and it's going to make a huge mess. And it's pretty easy to undo. You just undo it like that. And then you start over again. I don't know why that didn't work. I haven't actually, I'll be honest with you, I haven't actually used this yarn in the iCord maker before, but it's just a simple cotton yarn. There really shouldn't be anything wrong with it. But I might have done something a little funky. I'm trying to show you. Let's see. Get in there. Get in there. I have to sing to the yarn. Okay, let's try this again. All right, we're going to catch the first. Can you actually see? We're going to skip the second. I'm going to catch the third. We're going to skip the fourth. And now we should be doing our thing. Aha, there it goes. So it's important at this point. It's still being a little weird. We'll see if we can get past it. You know, it's okay. Ew, no, this is terrible. You know what? We're going to try something on different yarn. Yeah, that's not working at all. Goodness. What was I going to say? I was going to say that when it works, which this is not, it's okay if the first, inch or so is a little messed up because it's an iCord, so you can always just cut it off. What is wrong with this today? I made all of those. Clearly, I made all of those in that bag, so I know how to use this on a good day. This is you're recording, so it's not going to work out for you day. We'll use a different yarn. Let's see. Maybe that's the problem. But not everything works out. Watch this be a video on making iCords and then me not actually be able to get any of them to work. That would be that would be great. Okay, let's see. Let's use one that I've used before. Have I done this? Yeah, I've done this one before. Okay, let's try this. This is just a simple, super skinny, thin wool yarn. It's pink. There's nothing crazy about it. I don't know why that one wasn't working. That one was just a cotton yarn. But it might have been a little splitty because my mother-in-law was using it to knit up crochet a dishcloth. And I think that was some of the yarn that she had unraveled when she decided she didn't like her dishcloth pattern. So, why isn't my computer charging? Are we not actually plugged in? Oh, it would help if you plugged in. Oh, we are all over the place today. Okay, now I'm going to position this like that, and we're going to try this again. All right, hook the first, skip the second, hook the third, skip the fourth. Now do your thing. Aha! Now it's working. And you know it's working because you can hear the little... It's hard to hold it steady while you're doing it. Let's see. So that you can see. Yeah, so if you at first don't succeed, try a different yarn. That's my advice. And as you go, your weight's going to kind of fall down. So as you go, you can just pull your weight up on the yarn. And I like to put it on the edge, which of course you're not going to be able to see. No, I can't move it. I'll put it on the edge of the table and hang off the weight. That's typically how I do it. Or on like my kitchen island. And then just let the weight go down. But you can also hold it up in the air. And as you twist your yarn down below, it's going to kind of spin around. You can go pretty quick. And then it starts getting nice and long. Look at that. This is an old ball of 100% wool yarn, so it's a little fuzzy. Yeah, you just click it away. Clicky, clicky, clicky. Now, if you're doing, like, if you're trying to do an applied iCord on the edge of, like, a baby bonnet or a blanket, you could make your iCord with this and then kind of sew it on or knit it on to your thing. Personally, that is not how I would choose to do it because I don't like sewing. I like to apply things after the fact. That is not my cup of tea. Alright, so now I'll show you how to end it. So say you got what you want. And keep your weight on it for right now. And then you just cut your yarn. You can go ahead and finish it off. It's not going to pull it all, that's fine. It's going to get all messy. We'll just pop out the bottom. Then you take off your weight. I'm going to grab our handy dandy embroidery needle. Yeah, my camera placement is much better this time around. Still not, well, I don't think I'm used to it yet, but that's okay. It is better though, because I can have my hands closer to me. Then you can kind of just, you know, just put your needle through each loop. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's an iCord. No one's really going to be paying attention to the ends of your iCord. So just loop through and tighten. And now you have made a handy dandy iCord with your iCord maker. I don't know about you, but I kind of like the idea of just doing like little bracelets with it, especially if you had like some glittery yarn or something with sequins in it. I think they're cute. They're stretchy. And this works with, like I said, anything from fingering or sock yarn weight all the way up to heavy worsted. It's a pretty neat little tool, especially if you have to make a super long iCord. I was making my daughter, who's 10 months old now, a pair of pants, which I would show you, but she's actually wearing right now, and she's sleeping, so that's not going to happen. And they were super stretchy, loungy pants, and I had to make an iCord for the drawstring for the top. And I hand knit that sucker because I didn't have this yet. When I was done with it, I was like, you know, I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to buy an iCord maker. I love it. I think it's great. It's super fun. You know, whenever markets are a thing that exist again, I think what I'll do is, my idea was that I would just make a bunch of iCords with all of my yarn scraps and then have kind of like a crafting section in my booth where you could go and pick out, you know, 3 to 5 iCords that you want in whatever colors that you want, and then I'll bind them into one of those necklace cowls and sell them. I don't know how much for, maybe 15, 20 bucks. But I think that'd be fun. You just have a whole bunch of iCords that you could go through and pick out what colors you want and make your own necklace cowls. I think it's a good idea. I think it would work once we're able to have markets again. Let's see. I was going to show you how to do an iCord otherwise when you don't have an iCord maker, because not everyone knows how to do that. Let me find. Let's see. I have too much stuff over here. So, generally speaking, look at all that. Goodness. This is only one bag. I have like 3 bags of knitting stuff. Let's use these. So, typically when you're taught how to knit an iCord, they tell you to use double point needles. But I'll show you how you're supposed to do it. And then I'll show you the super tricky way to do it if you don't have double points. Because really, there's no need to buy extra tools if you don't have to. Why spend the money on buying extra tools when you could just use something that you already have, like cables? What is the point of a cable needle? I don't understand it. I hate that they sell them. First of all, they're too short and they're finicky and they're slippery. They don't really work that well for cable needles. And secondly, if you have a double point needle, or better yet, just a circular needle, that's what I do. I go up to my cable and then slip a circular needle in, and then I can just have it hanging down there, and then I do my cable. This is so much more helpful than a cable needle. Anyway, please excuse my rant on cable needles. Okay, so let's do an iCord manually now. Let's see, there's my camera. Okay, so we're gonna cast on, we'll do 3 stitches. Now, not everyone knows, you can do an iCord with 2 stitches or 5 stitches if you want, but traditionally they're 3 stitches. So we'll cast on 3 stitches. That's my long tail cast on, that's how I do it. So typically what you're supposed to do is you knit the 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you slide the stitches to the end of the double point. This is why you have to have double point needles. And then you knit across. You don't grab the tail because that's not going to help you. 1. I'm going to kind of pull on that first stitch. 2, 3. And then you slide your stitches across. Okay, 2 things. Thing 1. When you're starting the first stitch, don't knit in the front, knit in the back. This makes a much tighter and more seamless stitch. So always knit the first stitch in the back. Secondly, you don't really need to slide all this down. If you've knit 2 together, then you know what to do. Just slip your stitches back onto that other needle. That's all you gotta do. Then knit in the back. What's all this sliding all the way across the needle for? That's a whole bunch of wasted movement. And if we don't have to have our double pointed needles, and we just can use our circular needles or our straight needles, why would we pull out the double points? I don't really like doing double points unless I absolutely have to. And I'm not a sock knitter, and I have mastered the art of the magic circle. So, yeah, I basically never use my double points unless, well, I'll tell you, the last time I used a double point needle was to fix a screen that had popped out of my window. And I couldn't, the butter knife wasn't doing it, so I grabbed a chunky double point needle, I think it was a size 13, and that was the perfect size for the groove around my window. So, yeah. So yeah, this is how I do iCords manually. And yeah, they're awesome. And if you need it to be a certain size, then manually doing it is great. But look how long that's taken me. I mean, I've barely an inch of iCord, and it's been 5 minutes. You know, so if you need something particular, then by all means do it by hand. But if you have the means and you want something faster, then use the iCord maker. And I'll show you the difference. There's this, what size needles are these? These are size 6 or a 4mm. And then this is with the iCord maker. So yeah, the iCord maker iCord is thicker, but not by too much. And iCords are stretchy and squishy on their own anyway. So unless you really, really needed it to be a certain width for some reason, or a certain thickness, I'd use the iCord maker. Personally, unless your yarn did like what that cotton yarn was doing and totally flubbed up. I'm still not sure why it was doing that. So yeah, that's my trick to manually doing iCords. Just slip it. You don't need double point needles. And let's see if I've got something. I'll show you one more thing. I learned a fancy schmancy trick with iCords a few months ago. iCords aren't really my thing. I know I'm talking about them solely this video, but they're not really. I don't do a lot of them. I mean, you would not believe that since I just showed you a giant bag of iCords. But they're not really part of my normal projects. Now, the reason I got into them was because, well, because of the pants that I was making for my daughter, but also because I had made her a bonnet, and it had an applied iCord edge around the face of the bonnet. And I honestly kept putting the pattern off because I didn't want to do the applied iCord edge. I thought it was going to be too finicky. But it turns out it was not finicky at all, and I really enjoyed it. So let's switch up my needles. Let's use some 9s here, because this is kind of, that actually even might be too small for this yarn, but you know what, we're just going to make it work. So I'll just, we'll knit up a little rectangle here, and I'll show you how to do an applied iCord, which I might have to re-look up because it's been a while. I think I can figure it out. But it's really cool. So we'll knit up a little thing. This yarn is terrible. This is like an old wool bright yellow yarn. I don't remember what brand it is. I went through a felting phase where I was making these little bowls and little like monster stuffed lovey critters, and I wanted them to felt up. I wanted to stuff them and then throw them in the wash with some hot water and get them all to shrink and felt up, and they turned out super cute. And then I went to my local yarn shop and I found she had a bunch of 100% wool yarn on clearance, which was great for what I wanted to do, so I bought a whole bunch of it. And then, promptly fell out of love of making softies. So now I have all this leftover 100% wool yarn. Oh, my bag spilled out of into the cat food bowl. That's exciting. So yeah, it's good for examples. Who knows? Maybe I'll make some softies for the kids. Oh my goodness, what am I doing here? All right, let's just knit up. I'm going to knit up a little rectangle here, and then I'll show you how to do an applied iCord edge, but it's pretty cool. I think it is anyway. So why would you want to do an applied iCord edge? Well, if you've made something that, my bag is continuing to empty itself out on the floor. If you've made something that has kind of a wonky edge and you want to straighten it out, like I made some dishcloths for Christmas, and I don't know, one of my patterns, it wasn't even the basket weave pattern. I forget what stitch I used for it, but the edge was just wonky. There's a strange noise happening in this room. I don't know what that was. Anyway, I'm hoping it's not a mouse. And then she screamed and ran away. The edge was not straight, and it's a dishcloth. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I wanted it to look nice. So I put on a little applied iCord to the edges, and that straightened it right out. You might want to do it to a blanket, or the edges of, you could do it to like the edges of a bib and then just continue the iCord out to make like the ties of a bib, or around the bonnet that I made for my daughter. There's lots of reasons why you might want to do an applied iCord. It's a great way, I forgot what I was doing. It's a great way to even up your edges and to add a little extra something. Now, one of the things when you're doing an applied iCord, I always use a needle size up, sometimes even 2 needle sizes up, because the iCord, depending on what edge you're knitting, The iCord typically is a little, the stitches are shorter than stitches are wide. Knit stitches are shorter than they are wide. So when you're doing something, I did it again. I wanted to be slipping my last stitch. I'm not paying attention. Oh my goodness. So I always use a, goodness, what is going on today? A needle size or two up. That way my iCord it doesn't make the garment or the item, squished in any way. Right, let's see. We'll just do a little rectangle here. And for those of you who don't know, this is called garter stitch because you're knitting every row. And the benefits of garter stitch are that it lies flat, which a lot of times when you see stockinette stitch, the little V's, that curls, which that's just what it does. It doesn't matter if you're knitting tight or loose or with the right gauge, stockinette stitch curls, it just does. So that's why you'll often see like a couple stitches of garter stitch on either side of stockinette stitch to help it lie flat. But garter stitch lies flat. There's a lot of stitches that lie flat. Hurdle stitch, moss stitch, I'm going to drop a stitch over. Linen stitch. The other nice thing about garter stitch is it's textured, but for me, I like garter stitch. It's textured, but not in a way that's like obtrusive. And I think it's a very masculine or even, gender neutral, androgynous stitch. I really love things in garter stitch. They feel very uniform because of just how evenly the stitches lie. Actually, my hat, I'll show you in a second. My hat is all garter stitch. And I wish I could remember what the name of it was. I think it might be the Ricky hat, R-I-K-K-E. We'll look it up in a minute. This is my hat. Forgive the dog hair. And yeah, it's all garter stitch. I love it. I made this hat out of some yarn that I recycled from a Goodwill sweater a few years ago, and it is consistently my go-to hat. It's a little slouchy. The yarn was a cotton blend. Let's see, is this? No, open this pattern up and see if this is the pattern. Yeah, the Ricky hat, R-I-K-K-E. That's what pattern that hat is. You can find it on Ravelry, I'm pretty sure. It's a free pattern. I know it's a free pattern. I'm pretty sure you can find it on Ravelry. All right, let's just do a couple rows. It's already been 45 minutes, and I still don't hear the baby, which is shocking. If you have kids, you will understand. If you don't have kids, just appreciate the time that you have doing whatever you want whenever you decide to do it, like sleeping in or streaming or playing a game, because oh my goodness. I mean, I appreciated it before I had kids, but man, now you look back and you're like, I really could have appreciated that time more. Just deciding, making your own choices to do things that you want to do, because no matter what you want to do, when the 4-year-old is having sleep issues and wakes up at 4 in the morning and just can't go back to sleep, yeah, there's very little that you can do. You just make it happen. You just make it work, and then you walk around the next day like a zombie. And you can't have too much coffee because then you'll not sleep the following night. It's just a whole thing. It's a whole thing. But we're not here to talk about children. We're here to talk about knitting. What is my skein doing over here? All right. We're not going to do a huge applied iCord, so we'll end it here. That way I can show you how to do it. Let's untie whatever this loop is that's happening here. Oh my goodness gracious. Clearly this was not a center round yarn cake. I don't know what this was. It's not a hank either, but it is certainly not well organized. Okay, let's just cast off here. You know, in hindsight, I should have knit this up in stockinette because stockinette edges are a little more simple to knit into. I'm not a huge fan of picking up stitches. It's not my thing. So you know what we'll do? We'll do the applied iCord edge on this cast off side to cheat a little bit. Maybe we'll go around. Maybe we'll go around the corner. We're making it up as we go anyway, so we can do whatever we want. All right. I don't know why I cast on so many stitches. I didn't have to. Okay. All right, just for pretending like we need to. All right, so this is our garment right here, or maybe it's our bonnet. It's something. Maybe it's a dishcloth. So we have our thing, and we want to do an applied iCord on the edges. And we'll start, let's see. That's tricky. We'll start on this edge. Okay, so step one is to undo your yarn so that you can actually get to it. Do I have it? This is a center pull. Okay. It's just catching on itself. It's old. So step one is to cast on 2 stitches. Okay. Then you want to, let me see if I can remember how to do this. I might have to look it up. Then you want to put your needle into the first stitch. Okay. Now, we're not going to do that. There's different ways to do it. Okay. We're going to do it like this. So, I have 3 stitches. Cast on 3. Slip them onto your left-hand needle. Knit the first stitch in the back. Knit the second stitch. Now slip the third stitch. Okay. Here's where it's a little bit tricky, but it's not so bad. So you're going to pick up and knit into this first stitch on the edge. Pick up and knit into that. Okay. And then pass the slipped stitch over. Okay. Now slip everything onto your left-hand needle. 1, 2, 3. Knit into the back of the first stitch. Knit the second. Slip the third. Pick up and knit into the second stitch. Pass the slip stitch over. Transfer all in. And I'll show you what it looks like here in a minute. We gotta go a little bit, 1 or 2 stitches more in order for you to get a good look at it. Pick up and knit. Pass that stitch over. And you can see that we kind of have a little, it's It's hard to see. But look, we've got a little iCord there beginning to form on the edge. So we'll just keep going all the way across. It's really simple once you get the hang of it. It's kind of like, it's kind of like cables for me. Like when I first was thinking about doing cables, they seemed super intimidating. I'm like, okay, so I need a third needle and then I'm gonna be slipping stitches and moving them around, and it seemed super scary. I'm like, there is no way. And so because it seemed scary, I probably looked at cable patterns for like a year before I decided to try them. And then I I vividly remember trying cables for the first time. And when I slipped them onto, I think I was using a double point needle as my cable needle. I slipped them onto the cable needle for the first time and then just, knit across. I'm like, wait a minute. That was it? That's a cable? All you're doing is just relocating the stitches? I mean, once I actually did it, I'm like, oh my God, this is the simplest thing ever. And that's kind of how I felt about specifically applied iCords. And the reason I felt such trepidation about it is I don't care for picking up stitches. It's not my thing. But it's really not that bad when you're just going stitch by stitch. And honestly, sometimes I will I dropped it. Sometimes I'll get a tiny little needle and pick up all the stitches along the edge first. And then I'll do my applied iCord. And then that way I'm just knitting it. What's happening? I forgot what I was doing. I'm just knitting it from the other set of needles. I'm not having to pick up the stitches as I go. But, sometimes I feel like doing that and sometimes I don't. I wish, and maybe this happens, I don't know. Because, again, not a Twitch expert, but does it make a noise and indicate, or can you have it make a noise to indicate when someone pops into view? Is that something Twitch does? I know it can give you a little notification if someone subscribes or follows, but I wish it would. If it doesn't, I wish it would make a little noise when someone pops in. And maybe it does. Clearly, my channel is not super popular yet, as I believe I'm the only one watching my own stream. But that's okay. You can't create a following, or you can't just expect to have a following right out the gate. It's just, you have to generate, you have to create, to put out some good quality content out there. And as you do it, and people start to see it, then your following can grow, but you can't expect it to just happen the first time you do a thing. I kind of love the iCord edge. I've been thinking about adding it to regular hats, but the problem is a typical hat pattern starts off in a rib because the rib is flat and it's extra elastic. So in order to do an applied iCord on a hat pattern, your hat would probably need to just start off in stockinette. And then you'd want to make sure that your iCord wasn't too tight and was just stretchy enough to suit being worn as a hat, because you don't want the brim of a hat to be too tight. So I don't know. I might work on a hat pattern with an applied iCord edge, and I'm sure there's some out there too. But I'm never satisfied with the pattern as is, or I say never. I'm usually not. I like to take a pattern and then get kind of the general idea with it and then run with it. I almost never have the yarn in my stash that's going to match what they're calling for perfectly, so I've got to alter it anyway because of gauge. And then I'm like, I like everything except for this one thing. Go in these 6 other things. So I'm going to change all of this. And by the end of it, it's not the same pattern. So Look at this. Look how cute this is. It's making a nice, super even edge. I love an applied iCord. It turns, it looks so nice. It's so neat. I've also seen these on like the yokes of sweaters, like the top part, the neckline of your sweater, or on the edges of sleeves. Excuse me. This yarn is angry. It says we're old. So old, we don't want to unravel, we just want to felt up. Let's not do that yarn. All right, so yeah, so this has been an entire, almost hour. Oh, we're over an hour and 1 minute on iCords. For someone who doesn't particularly do iCords. But you know. It's always nice to have an extra trick up your sleeve. You're like, that edge is super wonky. Wait a minute, I have an idea. Let's do an applied iCord. But like I said, if you're doing it up the side, like I'm doing it on the, well, when you're actually, oh, what's happened over here? No, I missed a stitch. When you're actually doing an applied iCord on a garment, I highly suggest using at least one needle size up to give it a little extra wiggle room. Ooh, this yarn is something else. It's trying to split. It's kind of fuzzy. It's weird yarn, but it's bright and it works for a good demonstration yarn. See, now we're at a corner. Corners, I mean, you know, look, just do you. Just kind of figure it out as you go. And also, no one's gonna care. If you're giving this to someone or if you're wearing it, no one's gonna be like, oh wait, I see you skipped a stitch there in your iCord. And if they do, you know what, they're being rude and they don't deserve your time. So yeah, I just say, just kind of go with it. What's happening there? Kind of go with it. Go where you think it works and just keep going. We'll just go down this short side and be done with it. Yeah, see, I'm you know what it is, I'm not good at picking up stitches on the side, especially when it's garter, so I say I don't care for it, but it's more that I'm just not good at it. I mean, I'm sure I'm not doing it the way you're supposed to do it, but again, who cares? Is the final product nice? Yes. Do you like it? Yes. Then who cares what you're supposed to do? It's knitting. It's supposed to be a relaxing hobby, not some sort of perfectionist, do it like this or else thing. We have too many of that in this world. Just go with the flow. It's like Bob Ross with his happy little trees. There are no mistakes, just happy little accidents. You know, my husband and I, we have, well, cut the cord doesn't really explain what we've done because we got rid of satellite, but we're cord cutters, and so we went completely digital. We stream everything now, and it's so funny, like Plex and Pluto and Roku TV and everything, they all have Bob Ross channels, and I'm like, okay, first of all, that was a great idea, you know, a Bob Ross channel, just a whole channel devoted to Bob Ross painting. It's great. I want to know who had that idea, and why is it now that all of these services have that channel? That's a little strange, but I love it. It's so calming, it's relaxing. Put it on for the 4-year-old. He's like, what is this? I said, well, it's this man, his name is Bob Ross, and he's painting. He's like, okay, Mom. And then he got into it. And he sat still very quietly for like 15 minutes watching Bob Ross paint. And when you're a mom, you will take 15 minutes of sitting quietly doing anything. All right. I should have bound off there. It's okay. We'll bound off here. All right, so when you're done, you just bind off, and ours is gonna look funky. Oh, you know what? I'll show you something first. Okay, so this is our nice little applied iCord edge. We run around one corner. It's cute. I like it. But so now let's say that like this was the edge of a bonnet, and now you want, you know, like the tassels coming down or whatever. Now you could just do your iCord. So, you know, just slip, knit into that first stitch, and just do an iCord like normal, however long you want it. Oh my gosh, this yarn. Oh, what are we doing? And it'll just kind of like come off the edge of your garment. Like that. I think that's pretty cool. Yeah. All right. Now to bind off an iCord, pretty simple. You just knit 1, knit 2, pass that stitch over, knit 3, pass that stitch over, cut your yarn, pull the thread out. And then what I like to do to finish off my iCords, I just kind of sew it back up inside. Pull it through. And then what I do is I pull it really tight to kind of bunch up the iCord. Then I cut it close to the stitches. And then when I pull it out, it's hidden inside. So that's our little mini garment with an applied iCord edge down and around the corner, and then just a little extra iCord off the side. Sort of like, looks like an elephant. That's good. All right, I'm certain that my 10-month-old will be waking up any second now. So I'm gonna go. I hope you enjoyed this and learned a little bit about iCords. Maybe you're considering getting an iCord maker, certainly much faster than hand knitting them. But if you can't, or you don't want to, hand knitting them is just fine too. Do what you want to do. All right, thanks for tuning in. Clearly not now, because I still only have one viewer, but that's okay. But afterwards, oh, you know what? I don't have like an outro outlay or overlay. I don't have an outro overlay. So that's something I can make. If you have any Twitch recommendations, let me know. We're still learning. All right. Happy knitting, happy crafting. See you next time.